chosen one. Pause for a moment. Everything around you has stilled, not by accident, but by divine command. Heaven has pressed pause on the noise of your life because God is testing your heart in this very instant. You did not stumble across this message by chance. You were led here by the Spirit. The test began. The moment your finger hesitated, would you scroll away? Or would you open what heaven placed before you? You feel it, don't you? That gentle pressure in your chest. That whisper in your spirit saying, "Wait, this one is different." And it is. This is not an ordinary word. This is the voice of heaven trying to measure your obedience in the smallest of things. God's tests rarely arrive with warning. They come wrapped in ordinary moments, disguised as choices that seem insignificant. Yet, how you respond here determines what unfolds next in your life. Listen carefully. You are being observed by heaven's eye. The angels assigned to you are watching not to accuse, but to record. Every time you choose obedience over comfort, heaven takes note. Every time you obey, even when you don't understand, the light of your faith burns brighter against the shadows that seek to consume you. As was spoken in the sacred texts of old, Isaiah chapter 40, verse 31, "Those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength, soar on eagles' wings, run, not grow weary, walk, not be faint." You have been running weary, haven't you? Your prayers feel unanswered, your faith stretched thin. Yet, heaven whispers, this is the pause before the flight. The test is not about punishment, it is about readiness. God is testing whether you can stay faithful when the reward seems far away. Right now, your response in this very moment is being weighed. Do you believe enough to stay, to listen, to act? Or will impatience rob you of what heaven prepared? The enemy loves to distract the chosen ones right before their elevation. He whispers lies of delay, discouragement, and doubt, hoping you'll disqualify yourself by quitting early. But not you, not this time. Beloved, the Lord says, I am refining you in small tests to prepare you for great victories. When you pass the small tests, heaven entrusts you with greater territory. This pause, this moment of testing, is the gateway to the next chapter of your calling. The spiritual realm is moving even now. Angels are standing by, waiting for your act of faith. So, hear this clearly. This is not coincidence. This is divine intervention. The scroll of your destiny has been opened, and your obedience in this moment will determine how quickly it unfolds. God is watching not to punish, but to promote. You have felt unseen for so long, like no one recognizes your silent endurance. But heaven has seen it all, every sleepless night, every whispered prayer, every tear that carried more faith than words. The divine pause before you is not rejection, it's inspection. God is testing if your heart is aligned with His timing. Beloved, chosen one, this is where destiny demands response. Heaven is waiting for your yes. And sometimes that yes looks like a small act of faith, staying still when you want to flee, speaking hope when you feel fear, or even sharing the message that stirred your soul so others may awaken too. Right now, you stand at a spiritual crossroads. One path is convenience, the scroll, the ignore, the return to distraction. The other path is obedience, the choice to receive, to engage, to say, God, I'm listening. The test lies not in what you do next week, but in what you do in this second. You were chosen for this encounter. This is the divine pause that separates the distracted from the destined. Heaven has watched others scroll past their visitation, but you stayed. That's why you're different. That's why you're chosen. If you feel the stirring in your spirit, that's heaven confirming this word. Respond. Now act in faith. Like, share, and comment to declare your obedience. Type the prophetic number 777 below as your public declaration that you are ready to pass the test. Subscribe if you haven't yet, so you remain under the flow of words meant for the chosen. This is your sign, your divine moment. Your test and your response right now determines your release. Heaven is watching. You sense it now, the shift in the atmosphere. Something inside you whispers that what's happening around you isn't random. The coincidences, the delays, the repeated patterns, none of them are accidents. They are part of a divine test, hidden in plain sight. God often wraps his greatest lessons in ordinary disguises so that only the attentive, the faithful, will perceive his hand at work. Beloved, every chosen one faces moments where the unseen test begins. It never arrives with warning. It comes softly, woven into daily life. Maybe through a door that closes without reason, a relationship that fades away, a prayer that seems to echo into silence. And you wonder, why is this happening to me? But heaven whispers back, because I'm proving what I placed within you. You are not being punished, you are being measured. The Lord is watching not to expose your weakness, but to reveal your endurance. You prayed for strength, and strength can only be proven through pressure. You asked for faith, and faith can only be revealed through uncertainty. Every unanswered question, every moment of confusion, is the furnace where purity is formed. As the prophet Jeremiah once spoke through the Spirit, Jeremiah chapter 17, verse 10, I, the Lord, search the heart and examine the mind, to reward each person according to their conduct, according to what their deeds deserve. Do you understand what that means? Chosen one, it means that heaven is not silent, it's studying your response. When you choose peace instead of panic, gratitude instead of complaint, faith instead of fear, heaven takes notice. You are being refined in real time. The hidden test is not about passing or failing, it's about revealing who you've become. God already knows the strength he placed inside you. The test is so you can see it too. For too long, you've underestimated your resilience, your faithfulness, your light. The trials didn't come to destroy you. They came to unveil the strength that was always there. Every divine test carries a question wrapped in disguise. Will you trust me when you don't understand me? That's the question heaven is asking you now. When doors close, when friends drift away, when plans fall apart, will you still say, God, I trust you? That's the hidden test, and few recognize it when it comes. You've probably felt the weight of invisible opposition lately, things you can't explain, moments when everything seems to resist you. That's not coincidence, it's confirmation. The enemy doesn't fight what isn't a threat. The warfare intensifies when you are near revelation. That's why the testing grows heavier just before the breakthrough. Beloved, the hidden test is always about alignment. God isn't checking your emotions, he's checking your obedience. Will you still praise when nothing makes sense? Will you still forgive when the wound is fresh? Will you still walk in faith when your path is unseen? Do not mistake God's silence for absence. The teacher is always silent during the exam. Heaven is testing what you've learned from every past season. You've cried. You've prayed. You've waited. And now God says, "Show me what you've learned." Then, sometimes the greatest act of faith is to remain still while the test unfolds. It's to say, even if I don't see the answer yet, I will not move out of fear. That is what separates those who are called from those who are chosen. Look back at your life. Remember how many times you thought it was over, yet somehow you survived. Every one of those moments was a test you passed without realizing. Heaven has been grading your endurance, and you've been scoring higher than you think. You are still standing. That alone is proof that grace is active in your life. The hidden test continues even now. It watches how you respond to pain, to misunderstanding, to delay. But take comfort. The one who tests is also the one who empowers. God never tests without providing grace to endure. What he begins, he sustains. What he purifies, he perfects. Chosen one, lift your head. The test is not meant to break you, it's meant to crown you. Every hardship is heaven's way of saying, I trust you with more. The hidden test is not about whether God believes in you, it's about whether you will believe in him when everything around you shakes. And you will, because deep down, your faith was never built on what you see, it's built on who you know. The fire has been hotter lately, hasn't it? The trials sharper, the nights longer, the waiting heavier, and deep within. You've wondered if maybe God has forgotten about you. But beloved, this is not abandonment, it's refinement. You are walking through the refiner's fire, and though it burns, it purifies. Every chosen one must face this stage, because divine élévation requiert divine endurance. You have prayed for breakthrough, and heaven answered not with ease, but with heat. The refiner's fire burns away the impurities you can't take into your next season. Pride, fear, doubt, resentment. Each one must melt under the weight of his presence. What you're feeling right now is not destruction, it's transformation. The version of you that steps out of this fire will not resemble the one who entered. You may not see it, but heaven does. The pain you carry is sacred. It's a sign that the fire is working. When you feel like you're losing everything, God is actually removing everything that's not part of your destiny. Every loss is a cleansing. Every ache, a chiseling of your soul. The fire is shaping you into someone unstoppable, someone whose faith can't be shaken by storms or silenced by fear. What feels like breaking is actually the building of divine resilience within you. As the writings of David remind us in the Psalms, Psalms chapter 66, verse 10, For you, God, tested us, you refined us like silver. Do you hear that? Chosen one. You are not being punished, you are being purified. Silver doesn't complain in the furnace. It simply reflects the face of the one refining it. And that's what God is doing with you. He's looking for his reflection in your reactions, in your patience, in your faith. You've had moments when you wanted to quit, when your prayers felt pointless, when the fire seemed endless. But the refiner never leaves the furnace unattended. He watches the process carefully, because he knows the exact moment when the silver is ready. That's when you'll see why every tear was necessary. The pain has purpose. Every rejection that stung, every door that slammed, every silence that felt unbearable, all of it was God, removing what could not survive your next blessing. You prayed for clarity, but clarity often comes through fire. And here's the truth: many start the journey, but few stay through the refining. Some run when it gets uncomfortable, some hide when the heat rises. But not you. You stayed. You chose to trust, even when it hurt. And heaven saw that choice. Refinement is not just about what burns away, it's about what remains. The fire exposes fake faith, shallow motives, and temporary loyalties. But you, beloved, have proven real. You've been through enough storms to know that God's silence doesn't mean His absence. You've learned that faith doesn't always feel good, it just stands firm. There will be days when you'll question if it's worth it. The enemy will whisper that you've wasted years, that nothing's changing. But that's just smoke, trying to make you forget you're still in the fire of transformation. The enemy can't handle someone who keeps trusting through the test. This fire is not forever. It's seasonal, strategic, sacred. When it ends, you'll shine differently. Your words will carry weight. Your prayers will pierce darkness. And your presence will shift atmospheres. Because those who survive the fire carry heaven's fragrance. Beloved chosen one. When the heat rises, lift your eyes higher. God is not trying to see if you'll fail. He's showing the world that you were always gold. He's proving that your faith is genuine, not borrowed. He's declaring through your endurance that His hand has never left you. So, when the fire feels unbearable, remember this: it is not killing you, it is crowning you. You are being forged for a throne you haven't even seen yet. You are being prepared for influence that requires purity. Now, before this section closes, let your faith respond. Type, "I'm still here," in the comments below. It's more than a phrase, it's a declaration to heaven and to hell alike that the fire did not consume you. It's your prophetic shout that you're still standing, still believing, still burning for God's purpose. When you write those words, something shifts in the unseen realm. It tells every demon that tried to break you that you refuse to bow. It tells heaven that you are ready for what's next. Because only those who endure the refiner's fire can carry the radiance of glory. You're not just surviving, you're transforming. And the heat that once hurt you will soon become the light that guides others through their darkness. There is a kind of obedience that no one applauds. It happens in the dark, away from recognition. In moments when it seems like no one notices your effort, but heaven sees. God measures what you do when the lights are off, when the applause fades, and when the road feels endless. This is the obedience that shapes the chosen ones, the kind that happens in silence. You've been faithful in places no one celebrated. You've prayed for people who never thanked you, given when you had little, stood firm when others walked away. That's the kind of obedience that pleases God most, not loud declarations. But, quiet, devotion. The unseen yes spoken through tears is more powerful than any public proclamation. There are seasons when obedience feels invisible, almost pointless. You do what's right, yet it seems nothing changes. You forgive, but they don't return. You sow seeds, but the soil looks barren. And in that silence, your faith begins to question. Does God even notice, beloved? Yes, He notices every single act of obedience. Heaven is not moved by noise, it is moved by consistency. When you obey God in secret, your name echoes in heaven's chambers. When you say yes, even though it costs you, angels mark it in the scroll of remembrance. That's why some blessings come seemingly out of nowhere. They are the delayed harvests of unseen obedience. As the apostle reminds us in his letter to the Galatians chapter 6, verse 9, "Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up." That verse carries the heartbeat of your current season. God is testing your perseverance in the shadows. He's watching how you respond when no one applauds your obedience. Every unseen act becomes a seed, and every seed, though buried, will eventually push through the soil of time to reveal its reward. Obedience in the shadows is the training ground of greatness. Those who cannot obey in secret cannot be trusted with influence in public. That's why God hides you for a season, so your heart can mature before your name is revealed. There's protection in that hiddenness, even if it feels like rejection. Sometimes you think the delay is punishment, but it's actually preservation. God shields your destiny from premature exposure. The applause of men can destroy a calling that isn't yet rooted, so He lets you grow quietly, unnoticed, until your obedience becomes instinct rather than performance. Think of Joseph, hidden in a prison, though destined for a palace. Think of David, anointed in private before ever holding a crown. Think of Esther, chosen but concealed until the moment of revelation. Their hidden obedience became the bridge to their public assignment. The same is true for you, beloved. Heaven studies how you handle obscurity. The test isn't whether you'll shine when everyone's watching, it's whether you'll stay faithful when no one claps. Will you still serve when no one says, "Thank you"? Will you still pray when it feels like nothing shifts? Will you still obey when obedience costs you comfort? This is the part of the journey where maturity grows. You are learning to move by conviction, not by validation. God is teaching you to depend on His approval, not man's applause. And in that quiet space, something sacred forms a faith that does not need to be seen to be sure. You've been misunderstood by some who thought your silence meant weakness. They didn't see that your silence was obedience, that your restraint was worship. You chose peace when you could have fought back. You chose forgiveness when revenge seemed justified. That's what heaven calls strength. You may not feel it yet, but these small, silent victories are shaping your spiritual authority. When you obey in private, your voice gains weight in the spirit. Demons recognize consistency. They fear the one who obeys without needing evidence. And remember, heaven's timing never fails. What feels like delay is often divine choreography. God is arranging moments that align perfectly with your obedience. When the time comes, the doors that once refused to open will swing wide on the hinges of your faithfulness. So if you're walking through a season where obedience feels invisible, take heart. You are not forgotten, you are being forged. The unseen moments are writing a testimony that will one day speak loudly, and when that day comes, it will not just be about your promotion, it will be about the purity of the path that brought you there. Continue walking quietly. Keep doing good, even when no one notices. Keep trusting when it seems pointless. Every small yes is preparing you for the great yes that's coming. Heaven sees the hidden sacrifices, the quiet endurance, the secret prayers, and soon, what was invisible will become undeniable. Your unseen obedience is not wasted, it's worship. and worship never goes unrewarded. There are seasons when waiting feels like warfare. You stand between a promise and its fulfillment, and everything in between feels like silence. You've prayed, fasted, believed, and yet the answer tarries. That's not a denial, beloved. It's a divine delay. The battlefield of delay is where faith is proven and patience is sharpened like a sword. You see, the blessing is real, but so is the battle for it. Every chosen one must pass through the valley of waiting, because blessings that arrive too early often break those unprepared to hold them. God is not punishing you by making you wait. He's fortifying you. The delay is heaven's classroom, where warriors learn to rest while still believing. Imagine a seed buried beneath the soil. It's dark. It's silent. It's invisible. Yet beneath the surface, life is forming. If that seed could speak, it might cry, "Why can't I see the light?" But if it were unearthed too soon, it would die. The same is true for you. What feels like darkness is actually protection. What feels like stagnation is sacred preparation. Heaven has not forgotten you. It's just that your roots must deepen before your branches can carry the weight of fruit. Growth is slow because endurance must first mature. The delay you despise is the proof that your destiny is valuable. Heaven only hides treasures that are worth keeping safe. As the Apostle reminds us in his letter to the Hebrews, Hebrews chapter 10, verse 36, you need to persevere so that when you have done the will of God, you will receive what he has promised. That verse is your lifeline right now. It reminds you that waiting is not wasted time, it's sacred time. The waiting room is not empty, it's filled with unseen angels, recording your faith, your patience, your quiet persistence. Beloved, picture your life as a garden. Each act of faith you've planted is a seed. Some have sprouted, some are still hidden underground, but all of them are alive. Rain will come, sunlight will break through, and in due time, your field will burst with harvest. But until then, tend it with trust. Many give up just before the rain. They walk away because the soil looks barren, not realizing that roots grow deepest in silence. Don't uproot your faith just because you can't yet see the fruit. God's timing is perfect, though your eyes can't yet see the clock of heaven. And yes, the battlefield of delay feels lonely. You may feel forgotten by those you helped, unseen by those you served. But remember, faith is never meant to be comfortable. It's meant to be courageous. You are not waiting in vain. You are waiting under divine construction. When you feel like giving up, think of the eagle. It waits on the cliff for the perfect wind current before spreading its wings. It does not rush the moment. It trusts the invisible air to lift it higher. That's what you must do. Trust the wind of God's timing. Your wings are ready, but the right current is still forming. The delay is the discipline of destiny. And when the moment comes, acceleration will make up for every day you thought was wasted. God restores time to the faithful. Now, dear listener, if this message has stirred something in you, if it reminded you that your delay is not denial, then take a small step of faith. Let your heart respond in gratitude. Like and share this word, not out of routine, but as an act of planting seeds in other hearts that may be weary from waiting. Your simple action may be the rain someone else has prayed for. Subscribe if you haven't yet, so you don't miss what heaven continues to pour through this channel. And if you feel led, Consider sowing a seed of support that allows this message of faith to reach others standing in their own season of delay. Just as a farmer waters his field, your generosity helps the garden of God's message grow wider and reach further. Every act of giving is a whisper to heaven that says, "I believe in the harvest." Beloved, your waiting is not a punishment. It's a prophecy in progress. Hold steady. Stay grounded. Keep tending your faith, even when the soil seems dry. The same God who allowed the delay will send the breakthrough, and when it comes, it will come suddenly. The gates will open. The doors will swing wide. And everything that once seemed delayed will rush toward you with divine speed. You will look back and understand why heaven said, "Wait." And until then, breathe, trust, stay planted. The rain is coming. There are moments when you feel eyes upon you, not of people, but of heaven. You sense that something beyond sight is taking notes, that every choice, every word, every heartbeat in this testing season is being recorded. It is not imagination, it is divine reality. Angels are observing your faithfulness. The tests you face are not unseen, they are documented in heaven's archives. Nothing you've done in love, in faith, or in endurance has been missed. When you chose peace over anger, heaven marked it. When you forgave the one who never apologized, heaven marked it. When you prayed in exhaustion instead of despair, heaven marked it. You've been living under watchful eyes, not for condemnation, but for confirmation, as was spoken in the sacred texts of old. Malachi chapter 3, verse 16. Then those who feared the Lord talked with each other, and the Lord listened and heard. A scroll of remembrance was written in his presence concerning those who feared the Lord and honored his name. You, beloved, are written in that scroll. Heaven has documented your obedience. Angels have recorded your perseverance. Every tear you shed was ink on the parchment of remembrance. This is not poetic exaggeration, it is divine fact. God keeps record, not because he needs to remember, but because he wants to reward. The spiritual realm is watching with anticipation. Angels whisper among themselves about your steadfastness. They marvel that you still stand when the storms haven't stopped. Your endurance is their testimony of how faith can shine even in the darkest hours. Sometimes you think, why me? Why so many tests? But that's because you are being prepared for an assignment others couldn't carry. The greater the weight of calling, the sharper the refining of character. Heaven entrusts heavy crowns only to those proven faithful in small acts. Think of a soldier who trains under watchful command. Every repetition, every hardship, every bruise is seen by the commander who knows that one day that soldier will lead others. You are that soldier. Every silent battle you fought has been heaven's training ground for the leadership your destiny requires. Beloved, understand this. Angels are not idle observers. They are participants in your journey. Some have been assigned specifically to record your obedience and release rewards in due time. Their pens do not write in ink, but in light. And the light they inscribe becomes your evidence before heaven's throne. You might think your faith has gone unnoticed, but heaven has seen your worship in pain, your praise in confusion, your quiet endurance in storms. Those moments are sacred, and none of them have disappeared into the void. They are stored in heaven's memory, waiting for their appointed release. One day, the scroll of remembrance will open, and the records of your faith will speak louder than words. The same way a fragrance fills a room long after a candle burns out, your obedience will leave a trail of divine aroma that testifies of who you are, a true, chosen one. So when you feel unseen, remind yourself, heaven is taking notes. Your journey is not anonymous. You are not forgotten data in the divine plan. You are the headline of heaven's record today. And let this truth settle deeply. Every sacrifice you've made, every moment you resisted compromise, every yes you whispered through trembling lips, it's all counted. It's all stored. God wastes nothing. The angels do not write failure in your record, they write faith. Even when you stumbled, even when you doubted, they wrote down how you rose again. Heaven doesn't grade perfection. It celebrates perseverance. Right now, in this sacred instant, heaven watches still. The same way they recorded your tears, they now record your response to truth. Will you believe that you are remembered? Will you trust that your file in heaven's archives carries the fragrance of faith and not failure? This word isn't meant to make you fearful, it's meant to comfort you, to remind you that your unseen sacrifices have eternal weight, that your life, no matter how small it feels, is the subject of heaven's attention. You are seen, valued, recorded, and remembered, beloved, the chosen one. Let this moment be a prophetic act of awareness. If this message resonates deep within your spirit, if you sense the truth stirring in you, then seal it with a symbol. Comment the prophetic, number 888 below. That number represents new beginnings, divine recompense, and the unfolding of what was written about you in heaven's book. When you type it, you are saying, Lord, I know you see me. I trust your record. I believe my season of recognition is near. And this act isn't superstition, it's faith in motion. Just as worship is an outward sign of inward belief, this simple action declares alignment with heaven's timing. When you acknowledge the unseen record, you activate the unseen reward. Beloved, you are not invisible to heaven. You are inscribed in light, remembered in love, and destined for manifestation. The angels are still writing. Keep giving them something beautiful to record. Temptation never announces itself as danger. It arrives quietly, cloaked in comfort, whispering promises that sound reasonable. It speaks the language of shortcuts, offering what seems like relief when the waiting becomes too heavy. Every chosen one encounters this crossroad, the moment when the voice of temptation sounds eerily similar to the voice of logic. This is the part of the test where the enemy shifts strategy. He knows he cannot destroy what God has blessed, so he tries to distract what God has destined. He offers you comfort in exchange for calling, compromise in exchange for peace, imitation in exchange for authenticity. The goal is not to make you fall in sin, but to make you stop pursuing purpose. You've probably heard that voice before. It says, "You've done enough. You deserve a break." Or, "Why keep believing when nothing changes?" It disguises itself as self-care, reason, even wisdom. But deep down, it pulls you away from the path that refines you. The enemy knows he can't steal your blessing, but if he can convince you to stop walking toward it, he's already succeeded. As the Spirit spoke through the prophet Elijah, 1 Kings chapter 18, verse 21, "How long will you waver between two opinions? If the Lord is God, follow him. But if Baal is God, follow him." That question echoes across time and lands right here, before you. How long will you waver between what's easy and what's divine, between the comfort of your flesh and the calling of your spirit? God doesn't test you to see if you can be perfect. He tests you to see if you will stay faithful when tempted to drift. The moment of temptation is always close to breakthrough. The enemy waits for that moment when you're tired, disappointed, almost convinced it's not worth it, and then he offers an easier route. It looks harmless, but hidden beneath its surface is delay, distraction, and detour. Beloved, temptation is not always about doing something wrong. Sometimes it's about settling for something less right. The enemy doesn't need you to fall. He only needs you to stop climbing. He knows that if he can make you comfortable, he can make you forget you were meant for glory. God's testing is holy, but the enemy's imitation of that testing is cruel. While God tests to strengthen, the enemy tempts to weaken. While God allows pressure to purify, the enemy twists pressure to persuade. You stand between those two forces now, heaven refining, hell distracting, and the battleground is your focus. Remember what Jesus faced in the wilderness. Temptation didn't come when he was surrounded by support, but when he was hungry and alone, the devil offered him shortcuts, bread instead of endurance, glory without suffering, the crown without the cross. But Jesus knew that premature promotion always leads to spiritual bankruptcy. You cannot receive eternal crowns through temporary compromises. You, beloved, are walking your own wilderness. And just like Christ, the Spirit has led you there not to punish, but to prove. Heaven is not testing whether you can resist temptation in your strength. It's teaching you to depend on divine strength. There is always a voice calling you higher, even in temptation. It's the whisper that says, "You were not made for this detour." It's gentle, steady, unyielding. That's the voice of the Spirit, guiding you through the storm of whispers. Sometimes the temptation is not to sin, but to give up, to stop praying, to stop hoping, to stop believing that obedience matters. But remember, heaven does not measure the size of your success. It measures the size of your surrender. Every time you say no to compromise, heaven applauds quietly, and the light within you grows stronger. You may not feel the applause, but it's there. Angels rejoice every time you choose truth over comfort. They record each silent victory, each small no that costs you something. These moments of resistance build spiritual muscle. The enemy doesn't tempt you because you're weak. He tempts you because you're close. He senses movement in the spiritual realm and grows desperate to derail what's coming. If you could see what's on the other side of this temptation, you would understand why the battle feels so heavy. Don't fight in your own strength. Lean into grace. Grace is not a soft pillow for failure. It's the armor that keeps you standing. You will feel the heat of temptation, but you will not burn in it. The one who began the refining fire in you will not allow it to consume you. So when that whisper comes again, promising ease over endurance, remind yourself who you are. You are chosen. You are consecrated. You are being prepared for glory. And this moment of temptation is only proof that your anointing is stirring the atmosphere. Silence is one of heaven's most misunderstood languages. When God speaks, you rejoice. When he stays quiet, you begin to question everything. Yet silence is not absence. It is the classroom where trust is taught. Every chosen one must learn to read the language of divine quiet. For in that stillness, God shapes the heart more deeply than words ever could. There are moments when your prayers echo without answer, when your fasting feels unseen, when even the scriptures seem distant. In those seasons, your spirit cries out, "Lord, where are you?" But heaven's stillness is not rejection, it's examination. God is testing whether you trust His character more than His communication, as was declared through the writings of David in the Psalms. Psalms chapter 46, verse 10. Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth. That command, be still, is not passive, it is powerful. It means to stop striving, stop demanding, stop interpreting silence as failure. It means to rest in the knowledge that even when you cannot hear Him, He is still speaking through the circumstances that surround you. When heaven is silent, it is because heaven is working. The pause between your prayer and your promise is often filled with unseen orchestration. God moves pieces in the background that you could never comprehend. If He explained it all at once, your heart might collapse under the weight of it. So He lets silence teach you endurance. The silence of God is not punishment, it's invitation. It calls you to a deeper dimension of trust, one that doesn't rely on signs or feelings. Faith that only believes when it hears is not faith at all, it's dependency. True faith listens, even when heaven whispers nothing. You are not forgotten. Beloved, the silence is sacred because it separates surface believers from surrendered hearts. It draws you closer to the presence, not the performance. It asks, will you still love me if I don't answer yet? Many fall away in the silence. They misinterpret it as divine distance and begin seeking noise to fill the void, other voices, other validations, other comforts. But you, chosen one, are learning to anchor yourself in the unseen. You are learning to say, even if you say nothing, I will wait here. That is worship in its purest form. Sometimes the silence stretches longer than you think you can bear. You check for signs. You replay memories of when you once heard Him clearly. And you wonder if you did something wrong. But even Jesus knew silence on the cross. Even the Son cried, "My God, why have you forsaken me?" Yet in that silence, redemption was unfolding. The greatest work God ever did happened beneath the sound of suffering and stillness. You may not realize it, but heaven's silence is shaping your maturity. It is building spiritual muscles you cannot gain in seasons of clarity. You are learning patience that doesn't expire, faith that doesn't fluctuate, and love that doesn't require explanation. Think of the seed once more. When it's buried, it hears nothing, sees nothing. The soil muffles all sound. Yet deep inside, something stirs. It begins to grow. The silence of the soil is not death, it's development. The same is true for you. In this quiet place, your roots are growing strong enough to sustain the fruit to come. In time, God will speak again. His voice will break the stillness like dawn breaking over a long night. But when that happens, you will not hear Him the same way. You'll understand that His silence was part of His speech, that every unanswered prayer carried hidden instruction. When heaven speaks again, your ears will be different. You'll listen not from desperation, but from discernment. You'll no longer beg for words, you'll rest in them. The silence will have purified your hearing, so do not despise this season. Heaven's quiet is not emptiness, it's investment. God is storing revelation in your spirit that will only make sense later. The moment will come when you'll say, "If he had spoken then, I would have moved too soon. His silence saved me." On it, for now, rest in the stillness. Let it stretch your faith, deepen your peace, refine your expectations. The absence of sound is not the absence of presence. The same God who thundered from Sinai also whispers in silence, and both are equally holy. Wait well, beloved. Heaven is silent because heaven is near. There comes a time in every chosen life when God begins to uncover what was hidden, not the sins you've confessed, but the motives you didn't know you carried. The testing isn't to shame you, it's to purify you. Heaven cannot promote what hasn't first been exposed. The light doesn't come to condemn, it comes to cleanse. You may feel like everything inside you is being shaken, your emotions, your ambitions, your relationships, even your prayers. What once satisfied now feels hollow. That's not failure, that's spiritual surgery. God is peeling away layers that can no longer accompany you into the next dimension of your destiny. When God begins to expose your heart, it's rarely comfortable. You start seeing pride where you once saw passion, fear where you thought there was wisdom, self-protection where you assumed there was discernment. It's humbling, sometimes painful, but it's necessary. You prayed for elevation, and exposure is heaven's way of answering that prayer. As the apostle reminds us in his letter to the Hebrews chapter 4, verse 12, the word of God is alive and active, sharper than any double-edged sword, piercing soul and spirit, joints and marrow, judging hearts. You can feel that sword now, can't you? It's slicing through every false motive, every hidden wound. It cuts, but only to heal. The word of God doesn't destroy, it divides. It separates what's holy from what's harmful, what's divine from what's deceptive. It's the loving incision of a master surgeon. You are in the heart exposure stage of your testing. Heaven is not asking, "What do you do?" but "Why do you do it?" Because purpose without purity becomes poison. The blessing God has prepared for you requires a heart that can hold it without corruption. Maybe you've noticed certain people leaving your life suddenly. Maybe old habits or ambitions no longer fit. That's part of the exposure. God removes not only the wrong things around you, but the wrong desires within you. He's not taking from you, He's making room for what's real. When He begins this process, He doesn't just reveal darkness, He reveals potential. Every weakness exposed becomes an opportunity for strength. Every fear faced becomes ground reclaimed. God never exposes to humiliate. He exposes to heal, to empower, to ready. Beloved, this part of the journey demands honesty. You cannot hide from the light and still expect revelation. You cannot ask for glory while clinging to the shadows. God's light doesn't just reveal what's wrong, it reveals who you really are beneath the survival mask. The version He sees is the one that was chosen before time began. You might feel raw right now, as though everything comfortable has been stripped away. But remember this, what you call breaking, Heaven calls building. Every exposed wound becomes an altar where healing begins. Every tear shed in repentance becomes a seed of transformation. There's a holy beauty in being undone before God. When He shows you yourself, it's not to shame you, but to show you how deeply he loves you despite the flaws. His exposure is always followed by embrace. Sometimes God reveals your motives by allowing them to be tested. You say, "I trust you." And then he delays the answer to see if you truly meant it. You say, "I surrender." And then he asks for the thing you didn't expect to give. It's not cruelty, it's calibration. He's aligning your heart with his. This is where humility becomes your greatest strength. The moment you stop defending yourself and simply say, "Lord, show me truth." Heaven smiles, because truth doesn't weaken you, it frees you. When you stand before God with nothing to hide, you are finally light enough to rise. The chains fall, the guilt lifts, and the heart breathes again. That's the moment heaven was waiting for, the moment you stop pretending and start becoming beloved chosen one. If this message mirrors your current season, if you feel that God has been uncovering things inside you, revealing both pain and purpose, then let your spirit respond right now. Comment, "Search me, Lord," below. This isn't just a phrase, it's a surrender. It's your way of saying, "I'm not afraid of the light anymore. I want to see what you see." When you write it, you're inviting divine wisdom to continue its work. It's an act of humility that echoes David's prayer centuries ago, when he said, "Search me, O God, and know my heart." Oh, something happens when you declare that publicly. It silences shame. It tells darkness that you no longer fear exposure. It invites heaven to complete the purification already begun within you. Don't resist this season of revealing. The light that exposes you today will elevate you tomorrow. The hand that uncovers will also crown. Stay still under the process. Let God finish what he started. The same light that reveals will soon reveal your glory too. Faith is not proven on the mountain, it's proven in the furnace. It's easy to believe when everything is blooming, but real faith stands tall when everything seems to burn. The fires that threaten to consume you are the same flames that refine you. God is not testing to see if you will fail. He is revealing that you cannot be destroyed. The pressure you feel right now is not punishment, it's proof. Heaven only applies pressure to what carries promise. You are being molded like clay in the hands of the potter. He presses where you are too hard, stretches where you are too narrow, and reshapes what pride once stiffened. You might feel cracked, but cracks are where his light enters. As was written in the second letter to Timothy, 2 Timothy, chapter 1, verse 7, "For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and of a sound mind." That verse is your armor. You were never meant to bow beneath the weight of fear. The same Spirit that raised Christ from the grave breathes courage into your trembling places. Fear says, "You can't handle this." Faith whispers, "You were built for this." And imagine gold inside a furnace. It melts. It surrenders shape, but it never loses its essence. Fire does not change. What gold is it only? Reveals what's pure. The same is true for you. What you've called loss, God calls purification. The pressure is burning away everything false, so that what remains cannot be shaken. You've been walking through invisible flames lately, financial struggle, emotional exhaustion, unanswered prayers. But heaven has been beside you in every spark. God never leaves his chosen in the fire alone. Remember Shadrach, Meshach, And Abednego, the flames only burned their ropes, not their skin. That's what's happening to you. The fire is destroying bondage, not blessing. The hardest part of this season is not the heat, it's the waiting. The temptation to give up before the transformation completes. But listen closely. If you leave the furnace too soon, you forfeit the shine you were meant to carry. The potter knows exactly how much pressure you can endure, and he never keeps you in the fire longer than necessary. Faith under fire doesn't scream, it stands. It doesn't understand everything, but it keeps believing through the smoke. That's what makes you dangerous to the enemy, your refusal to bow, even when you don't see the outcome. And perhaps, right now, you feel isolated in this trial, but you are not alone. There are thousands of others walking through similar flames, and your endurance becomes their inspiration. That's why these words reach you today, because your testimony will soon be the light for someone else's dark night. Beloved, chosen one. If this word speaks to your spirit, if it feels like the holy fire has been surrounding your life, then I want to invite you to keep this flame alive beyond this moment. When you like, share, and subscribe, you are not performing an action for attention. You are building altars of remembrance across digital ground. Each click is a spark that helps this message reach another soul, still trapped in smoke. If your heart feels moved, consider sowing a seed, not out of pressure, but as a gesture of partnership. Every contribution, large or small, becomes oil for the lamp that keeps these divine messages burning. Your generosity keeps the light flowing, allowing those in the shadows to find warmth and guidance. You are part of something much larger than a screen or a sermon. You are part of heaven's echo in this generation. When you share, you are carrying light into dark algorithms. When you subscribe, you are saying, keep the fire burning. When you give, you are pouring oil onto the flame that others will gather around. Picture it this way: your faith, your support, your response. Each act is a torch passed down. Somewhere, someone is about to give up, and your small gesture becomes their signal fire of hope. That is how the kingdom multiplies, not by noise, but by faithful flames. Faith under fire produces a glow that cannot be hidden. You are that glow. The world needs the heat of your perseverance. Don't despise this trial. It's the divine forge shaping you into a vessel of glory. And soon, when the furnace door opens, the world will not see the scars, it will see the shine. The fire has not come to end you. It has come to announce you. So stand firm. Beloved, the pressure will pass. The flames will fade. But the gold that remains will carry the reflection of the one who kept you through it all. Surrender is not a word of weakness. It is the language of power. To surrender to God does not mean to lose. It means to be entrusted with something far greater than control. Every chosen one reaches the place where God whispers, "Will you let it go?" And that moment defines everything that follows. The narrow path of yes is not wide enough for your plans, your fears, and your calling to walk side by side. Something must be laid down for something divine to rise. God never asks for surrender to strip you. He asks to sanctify what you hold. He removes what you cling to so your hands can receive what they were designed for. As heaven speaks clearly through the words in Deuteronomy chapter 30, verse 19, "I have set before you life and death, blessings and curses. Now choose life, so that you and your children may live." This is the essence of surrender choice. Every day heaven sets before you paths that look ordinary, but each one leads to life or stagnation. Surrender is choosing life even when it feels like loss. It is trusting that what you release will return multiplied in grace. You see, surrender doesn't always happen in moments of crisis. Sometimes it happens quietly. In the unseen corners of your soul, it's when you finally stop wrestling with what you can't fix. When you no longer demand answers, but choose to rest in the mystery of divine timing. You may think surrender feels like falling, but in truth, it is flight. The eagle doesn't resist the wind, it opens its wings. The same wind that could destroy a weaker bird becomes its lift. That's what happens when you let go of control. What once terrified you begins to carry you higher. Beloved, what is your Isaac? What do you hold so tightly that you fear its loss more than you trust God's hand? That's where the test of surrender begins. It's not always about possessions or people. Sometimes it's about identity. You've defined yourself by roles, achievements, and expectations. And God is asking, who are you when all of that is gone? The narrow path is lined with unseen sacrifices. People may not understand your yes. They might call it foolish or unnecessary. But heaven knows that obedience always looks strange to those who are still negotiating with God. Your surrender will often cost you applause, but it will buy you authority. This is not the surrender of defeat. It is the surrender of transformation. When you lay something down before God, He breathes on it. He resurrects what aligns with His will and removes what was never meant to stay. The altar is not a place of death, it's the birthplace of new beginnings. The world teaches you to grasp, to accumulate, to control. But heaven teaches you to release, to trust, to let go. Every prophet, every disciple, every chosen vessel walked this same path of surrender. They all faced a moment when God said, "Give me what you think you need, and I will give you what you truly need." It's a narrow road because few are willing to walk it, but those who do find peace that surpasses understanding. They discover that surrender is not losing ground, it's stepping into holy ground. Perhaps you are in that place right now, the tug between fear and faith. The question isn't whether God is asking, it's whether you are listening. You can feel it, can't you? That stirring in your spirit, that nudge in your chest. It's the Holy Spirit inviting you to release something that's become too heavy to carry alone. And yes, surrender hurts at first. It feels like handing over the last bit of control, but soon you realize the weight you carried wasn't yours to begin with. The moment you release it, peace rushes in. That's the paradox of surrender. The less you hold, the more heaven fills. When you finally say yes, you'll notice the atmosphere shift. The anxiety that once haunted you will lose its grip. The decisions that once confused you will become clear. The silence that once scared you will turn into stillness. Because surrender aligns you with heaven's rhythm, it returns you to divine order. Beloved, chosen one, your yes carries more power than your striving. You may think surrender makes you small, but in truth, it expands you beyond measure. The ones who surrender fully are the ones God trusts deeply. So, let go, not recklessly, but reverently. Open your hands and release what you've tried to hold together. The path is narrow, yes, but it's lined with light. Every yes, whispered in faith, becomes a doorway to divine multiplication. And when you finally walk through, you'll see what you surrendered wasn't stolen. It was sanctified. There are moments when heaven opens a window, a divine countdown begins. Unseen yet urgent. It's not the countdown of doom, but of destiny. You can feel it in your spirit. When it happens, time feels different. Moments feel heavy, and your heart begins to beat in rhythm with eternity. This is that moment now. You are standing inside the prophetic countdown, and heaven is watching how you respond. For weeks, maybe months, you felt a strange tension, a sense that something is about to break open. That's not anxiety, that's awareness. The Spirit of God has been stirring the atmosphere, aligning situations, testing hearts, and preparing vessels. Every delay, every closed door, every silent prayer has led here. You see, God's timing is never random. The prophetic countdown is His way of saying, the appointed time is near, but your obedience must unlock it. The door is ready. The blessing is written. The angels are in position, but heaven waits for human agreement. Divine timing and human obedience must collide before release, as it was proclaimed in the Gospel of Luke. Luke chapter 12, verse 35. Be dressed ready for service and keep your lamps burning. That verse is a call, a command, and a warning all in one. It means stay ready. Don't let your oil run out. Don't let discouragement dim your flame. The countdown is not for the fearful, it's for the faithful, the ones who stay ready even when the hour grows late. Beloved, you've been waiting, wondering, and worrying. You've looked at the sky for signs, at people for confirmation, and at yourself for answers. But heaven is saying, the sign is already within you. The stirring you feel, the restlessness, the sudden urge to clean your heart and clear your path. It's all part of the preparation. The prophetic countdown doesn't come with thunder. It arrives in whispers, in dreams that won't leave you alone, in scriptures that repeat themselves, in moments that feel like déjà vu. You are not losing your mind. You are being awakened. Heaven is making sure you don't miss your divine appointment. There is a sacred urgency upon you now. The tests of the past were not for punishment. They were rehearsals for this moment. The countdown has begun because heaven has judged your heart ready. What's coming next requires courage, and your readiness determines your release. But readiness is not about doing more, it's about being aligned. It's not about running faster, it's about standing still in faith. The countdown is not for the frantic, it's for those who trust. You've probably felt like time is slipping through your fingers, but God's clock doesn't tick the way yours does. What feels late to you is perfect to Him. When He moves suddenly. And when the appointed second strikes, what took years of waiting will unfold in moments. This is why heaven tests you before the countdown begins. If you're not trained to recognize the tone of divine urgency, you might mistake it for pressure and give up too soon. But those who listen with the Spirit hear a different sound, not chaos, but calling. Imagine a soldier hearing the trumpet before dawn. While others sleep, he rises, not because he feels strong, but because he's trained to respond. That's you right now. You're hearing heaven's trumpet calling you into readiness. Beloved, the countdown is not a threat. It's an opportunity. It's heaven's mercy giving you a chance to align before acceleration begins. The number itself is not magic. It's symbolic of divine timing, completion, and covenant. So, as a prophetic act, to seal what heaven is saying in this hour, comment the number 555 below. That number represents grace multiplied by transition. It's the sign of divine shifting, of old doors closing and new gates opening. When you write it, you are not chasing luck, you are declaring alignment. You are saying, I am ready for what heaven is counting down toward. Oh, and when you declare it, something invisible responds. Angels recognize that signal as agreement. Heaven notes that you are listening, not scrolling. That single act of faith becomes a spiritual signature that says, here I am, Lord, awake, willing, ready. And this countdown is not measured in minutes, but in moments of obedience. Every yes you've spoken, every temptation you've resisted, every tear you've turned into worship, all of it has shortened the distance between promise and manifestation. Do not fear the countdown, embrace it. You are not running out of time, you are running into it. What God is about to do will not be delayed another cycle. The appointed season has matured. The door that's been sealed is unlocking. The words that were dormant are coming alive. Be ready. Keep your lamp burning. The prophetic countdown is not warning, it's invitation. And when the sound of heaven's second strikes, may it find you awake, anointed, and available. Beloved, this is not the end, it's the unfolding. The countdown doesn't close time, it opens eternity. There is a breaking point in every divine process, the moment when the weight becomes unbearable, when strength seems gone, and faith feels stretched to its final thread. It is there, at that trembling edge, that the line between despair and destiny blurs. You are standing in that place now, the sacred space where heaven watches closely, where angels hold their breath, where God measures your endurance by the rhythm of your heartbeat. It feels like too much, doesn't it? The prayers unanswered, the dreams deferred, the people you trusted drifting away. You've carried burdens that no one saw, smiled when your soul was aching, and held hope like a flickering flame against the wind. You've said, Lord, I've done all I can. And heaven replies softly, then stand. As it is written in the second letter to the Corinthians, 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 8, we are hard pressed on every side, but not crushed, perplexed, but not in despair. That verse is not poetic comfort, it is spiritual fact. You are pressed, yes, but never crushed. You are confused, yes, but never hopeless. The breaking point is not your end, it is your unveiling. God is allowing pressure not to destroy you, but to show what He has built within you. You are like a seed beneath the earth, buried, broken, and unseen. Yet within that breaking lies the birth of something greater. A seed must split open before it can grow. The breaking is not the end of life, it is the beginning of multiplication. When the pressure increases, the shell of self-sufficiency cracks. You begin to discover that what kept you alive was never your strength, it was His presence. The breaking reveals that you were never sustaining yourself, you were being carried all along. Beloved, this is the mystery of God's refining love. He waits until your human strength ends, so that His divine strength can begin. He does not intervene to spare you from breaking. He intervenes to make the breaking sacred. Every crack becomes a channel for grace. Every wound becomes a window where his light enters. Perhaps lately you've felt the crushing weight of unanswered questions. You've tried to make sense of the pain, to connect the dots, to find purpose in the pieces. But the breaking point rarely explains itself while it's happening. The understanding comes later, when you look back and see that every fracture was forming the shape of something holy. Think of the potter's vessel again. Sometimes, if the clay resists, the potter must press harder, even break and reshape it entirely, not out of anger, but out of commitment to its design. The potter doesn't discard the clay, he remolds it with gentler visa hence. You are that clay. Beloved, the pressure isn't punishment, it's precision. God is shaping you for a purpose that demands durability. You've been through nights that felt endless, carrying pain too deep for language. Yet every tear you've cried has watered the soil of your becoming. Heaven wastes nothing, not even your sorrow. The ground of grief often grows the greatest harvest. When you reach the breaking point, the enemy whispers that it's over. But that's because he knows what comes next. He knows that right after breaking comes birthing. He knows that every shattered plan becomes a vessel for glory. That's why he attacks most fiercely just before the release. Do not misinterpret the pain. The same hands that break are the hands that bless. The breaking is not God's anger, it's his artistry. He is sculpting resilience into your spirit, carving strength into your soul. Every strike of pressure is forming something eternal. And in that place of breaking, when you have no words left, heaven leans closer. God does not despise the broken, he dwells with them. The sound of a breaking heart is not noise to him, it's worship. It's the raw, honest sound of surrender that attracts divine attention. You may feel like the pieces of your life are scattered, but to God, they are ingredients. He knows how to gather what shattered and form something far more beautiful than before. When he restores, he doesn't glue fragments together, he makes something entirely new. Soon, the breaking will make sense. The heaviness will lift. The pressure will give way to presence, and you will realize that you were never being broken apart, you were being broken open. What emerges from this season will not resemble who you were. You will speak with more compassion, walk with more wisdom, and carry an authority born only from endurance. You will look back on this valley and understand it was not destruction, it was divine construction. Beloved, you are not breaking down, you are breaking through. The sound of cracking is not collapse, it's creation. Every breaking point in the hands of God becomes a birthplace for glory. And when you rise, and you will rise, you'll shine with a radiance that tells the world, I was pressed, but not crushed. I was broken, but I became whole. There is a courtroom in heaven, an unseen chamber, where every test, every choice, every act of faith is weighed. The trial of your obedience does not end when the storm fades. It moves into this sacred hall, where divine witnesses observe and record what your endurance has produced. The season of testing transitions into the season of evaluation. You are no longer in the fire. You are now standing before the eyes of heaven, being measured not by perfection, but by persistence. It is written that nothing done in faith is ever forgotten. The unseen sacrifices, the prayers whispered through pain, the kindness you gave when your own heart was bleeding, all of it has been gathered as evidence. And now, heaven examines not just what you did, but why you did it. The motives of your heart are being held to the light of eternity. as was revealed in the writings to the Romans, Romans chapter 14, verse 12. So then, each of us will give an account of ourselves to God. That truth humbles every soul that hears it. It reminds you that while men may overlook or misunderstand, heaven never does. Your life is not a collection of random moments. It is testimony, built day by day, breath by breath. Every choice has eternal weight. Every act of love has eternal resonance. You live before an audience unseen, but ever present. Beloved, this is not judgment unto condemnation. This is the divine review that precedes reward. The heavenly evaluation is not a court of fear, but of fulfillment. It is the place where heaven acknowledges the faith that stood when others fell. It's where angels record not just outcomes, but endurance. Imagine a great library where scrolls glow with living light. Each scroll bears the name of one who endured. When heaven opens yours, the ink of every trial you passed illuminates like fire. The moments you thought were wasted become chapters of glory. The prayers you thought were forgotten sing back to you as echoes of faith. You see then that nothing was in vain, not the waiting, not the loss, not even the tears. This is the mystery of the heavenly evaluation. The things the world applauded are often absent from heaven's record. While the things you did in secret shine the brightest, the world rewards performance, heaven rewards perseverance. What you did, quietly, faithfully, consistently, those are the jewels that heaven treasures. Perhaps you've wondered why your recognition seemed delayed, why others were celebrated while your obedience went unseen. Now you understand your reward was never meant to come from earth. Earthly applause fades, but heavenly approval is eternal. The evaluation taking place now is setting the stage for what will soon be released upon your life. The judge who sits upon the throne is not distant. He is deeply intimate. He looks not only at the deeds, but at the devotion behind them. He weighs your intentions, your resilience, and your willingness to love, even when wounded. This is not a courtroom of dread. It's a sanctuary of truth, where justice and mercy embrace. God sees the nights when you wanted to give up, but didn't. He remembers every time you forgave without apology, every time you gave without expecting return. These are the details being written in your record. The heavenly evaluation is not about what you lost, it's about what you learned. Think of it like a sculptor stepping back from his creation. The blows of the chisel are over, and now he studies the form with quiet satisfaction. The carving is complete. That's where you are. The shaping season has ended, and heaven is examining the beauty that emerged from the breaking. You may not feel radiant yet, but to heaven, you are glowing. Every scar has become testimony. Every fracture, a story of faith restored. Your life now testifies louder than your words ever could. Beloved, while this evaluation unfolds, rest. The hardest part is behind you. The trial is concluded. The witnesses are silent, and the evidence speaks for itself. You have been found faithful, not flawless, but faithful, and that is all heaven ever required. Soon, the verdict of this evaluation will become visible in your natural life. Opportunities will unfold that match your endurance. Favor will find you without striving. Doors will open, not because you knocked, but because heaven remembered. When you reach that moment, you'll understand every hidden act of faith, every quiet moment of obedience, every tear you turned into worship. It all mattered. Heaven kept score, even when the world did not. The evaluation is not ending. It's transitioning into reward. The hands that once molded you now crown you. The voice that once tested you now declares, "Well done, M." And you will know every second of struggle was sacred. Every act of endurance eternal. The courtroom of heaven has ruled in your favor. When heaven finishes its evaluation, something begins to shift on earth. You may not see it at first, but the atmosphere around you starts to respond to the verdict rendered in the unseen. Suddenly, the weight that once pressed on your shoulders begins to lift. The winds of divine acceleration start to blow. The blessing that was held back for a season now races toward you with the speed of light. This is the moment when heaven releases what you've been tested for. The waiting is over. The silence breaks. The ground beneath you, once barren, begins to bloom. Every delay, every disappointment, every heartbreak is about to reveal its purpose. What once felt like endless labor is about to give birth. The blessing is real, but it doesn't fall like a gift from the sky. It flows like a river from obedience. You've dug channels through your prayers, carved pathways through your faithfulness. And now, at last, the current of divine fulfillment begins to pour through, as Jesus himself declared in the Gospel of Matthew. Matthew chapter 6, verse 33. But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. That is the secret to the blessing. You didn't chase things, you chased God. You didn't build your life on luck, but on loyalty. And because of that, heaven can now trust you with what others only dream of. Imagine a field after a long drought. The soil is cracked, dry, and seemingly dead. Then, suddenly, clouds gather and the first drops of rain fall. Within days, what looked like dust begins to turn green. That's what's happening around you. The spiritual rain has started. The land of your life is responding. Every seed of faith you planted is waking up. The blessing doesn't just come as money, success, or opportunity. It comes as peace, as clarity, as divine connections that make sense of past confusion. God blesses not only your hands, but your perspective. He aligns you with favor that multiplies what you already have. And when the blessing comes, it comes in layers. The first is restoration. What was lost returns, stronger than before. The second is recognition. Those who once overlooked you begin to see what God saw all along. The third is revelation. You finally understand why the waiting had to take so long. Heaven delays nothing without reason. Every pause carries wisdom. Beloved, when you receive this word, let your heart respond in gratitude. The same faith that carried you through the valley must now sustain you on the mountain. Blessing can be as testing as suffering if you forget who brought you there. The purpose of the blessing is not to inflate your pride, but to expand your impact. You are blessed to build, favored to serve, prospered to provide. And if this message has stirred your spirit, if you feel that divine rain falling, even as you read these words, let your response become part of the river. Like, share, and comment below. Not as a gesture of routine, but as a ripple of gratitude. When you share light, it multiplies. Someone else might be one message away from hope, and your simple act could be the bridge heaven uses to reach them. Subscribe if you haven't already, so the next wave of revelation finds you ready. These words are not simply content, they are manna, fresh for each season, sent to strengthen those who refuse to give up. And if your heart feels led, if gratitude overflows into generosity, consider sowing into the message, not out of pressure, but as worship. Every seed keeps the fire of these words burning brighter, allowing them to travel further, reaching the unseen corners where someone waits for confirmation that God has not forgotten them. Your giving becomes rain in another's drought, light in another's night. Think of it this way: a tree never eats its own fruit. The blessing on your life is meant to feed others. Every time you give, every time you support, every time you share, you're extending the branches of your faith to shelter another weary soul. Your participation isn't just digital, it's divine. Heaven sees the heart behind the click, the intention behind the gift, the gratitude behind the share. When you move in generosity, heaven moves in multiplication. The blessing released upon you is not a finish line, it's a fresh assignment. God's abundance is anointing in motion. He didn't bless you to stop, He blessed you to start. Start building, start reaching, start shining. Beloved, the waiting has ended. The verdict has been declared, and the floodgates have opened. What's coming next will not trickle, it will pour. Step into it with humility, hold it with gratitude, and share it with love. Because the blessing that finds you now is not a random gift, it's a divine response. When the blessing comes, it does more than fill your hands, it marks your spirit. Those who have walked through fire do not shine like those who have never been burned. The glow of the tested is different. It is quiet but unshakable, soft yet unbreakable. This is the mantle of the tested, the invisible garment that heaven places upon those who have endured. The mantle is not a robe of luxury, but a cloak of responsibility. It carries authority forged in adversity. You did not earn it through comfort, but through consistency. Every trial you passed, every night you endured, every test you completed stitched another thread into this divine covering. You wear now what pain once wove. As the prophet Elijah passed his mantle to Elisha, 2 Kings, chapter 2, verse 9, let me inherit a double portion of your spirit. Elisha said, you have asked a difficult thing. If you see me darken, it will be yours. This mantle does not make you proud, it makes you humble, because you know that everything you have survived was grace, not merit. You have become both scarred and sacred. Every mark on your soul is now a story of mercy. The tested ones walk differently. They do not rush. They discern. They do not speak to impress. They speak to impart. Their presence brings calm where others bring chaos. They have learned that power without purity is poison, so they guard their hearts with reverence. The mantle of endurance transforms how you see others. You no longer judge their storms. You recognize them. You can spot a weary soul even in a crowd, because you once were one. That is why God allows certain people to be tested deeply, because only the broken can truly lead the broken. Your mantle is your testimony made visible. You may not see it, but the spiritual realm recognizes it. Demons remember the fire you walked through and tremble. Angels honor the resilience that proved your loyalty. Even creation responds differently to those who carry the weight of tested glory. The mantle does not just rest on your shoulders, it shifts the atmosphere around you. When you enter a room, peace follows. When you pray, heaven listens differently. When you speak, people feel what cannot be explained. That's not charisma, it's consequence. The consequence of staying when others left, believing when others doubted, loving when others hardened. This mantle is not for decoration, it's for demonstration. You've been anointed to carry light into dark places, to speak life where there has been silence, to remind others that endurance is not empty, it's evidence. But wearing this mantle comes with weight. It calls for deeper wisdom and gentler hands. The authority you now carry must be clothed in compassion. You've been given the power to influence, but influence is sacred. It must always point back to the one who lifted you from the ashes. Remember, Elisha's mantle carried Elijah's fire, but it also carried Elijah's humility. When you step forward with this mantle, do not boast in your strength, boast in his faithfulness. Every ounce of your endurance has become fuel for divine purpose. And here is the mystery. The mantle doesn't only mark you for leadership, it marks you for multiplication. What you've overcome becomes a map for others. What once broke you becomes instruction for the next generation of chosen ones. Your story becomes a seed. Your scars become sermons. You've crossed through storms that would have swallowed many. And because of that, your voice now carries weight. Heaven trusts the tested. The mantle is heaven's way of saying, this one can carry what others dropped. So wear it with reverence. Beloved, walk with quiet authority. Let your life testify without the need for explanation. The mantle doesn't need to announce itself. It reveals itself through fruit. You are now among those who have been refined and found faithful. The mantle upon you is not just for today, it's for generations to come. Others will rise because you did not fall. Others will believe because you refused to quit. The fires you endured have not only purified you, they have branded you with divine resilience. You are no longer just surviving, you are carrying the evidence of survival as a message to the world. This is the mantle of the tested, woven from pain, lit by purpose, sealed with endurance. And when heaven looks upon you now, it does not see the one who was broken. It sees the one who was remade. The journey ends where it began, in the gaze of God. The tests, the silence, the fire, the breaking, the rebuilding, all of it has led to this moment, the crowning. Not the crown of vanity or achievement, but the crown of endurance. Heaven does not crown those who never fell. It crowns those who fell and rose again. You, beloved, have been through the proving, and now you stand ready for the revealing. The crown and the calling are not separate, they are one. The crown represents authority. The calling represents assignment, and both are born from obedience. Every tear you've sown, every trial you've faced, every time you said yes through trembling lips, it all weaves into the band of that heavenly crown. You did not win it through strength, but through surrender, as was written in the book of James. James chapter 1, verse 12. Blessed is the one who perseveres under trial, because, having stood the test, that person will receive the crown of life that the Lord has promised to those who love him. That is your portion. The crown of life is not merely a symbol of eternal reward, it is a present reality of divine recognition. Heaven has seen your endurance and declared it worthy. You are no longer in the testing ground, you are standing in the proving ground. What was internal is now about to become visible. When God crowns a soul, it's not with gold, but with glory. The light that rests upon you now is not earthly, it is eternal. It is the reflection of every moment you chose faith over fear, love over bitterness, and hope over despair. That light cannot be taken, it cannot be dimmed. It shines not for your fame, but for His. The crown you wear is invisible to many, yet undeniable in its effect. It draws favor to you without striving, wisdom without effort, peace without explanation. People will sense something different in your presence, but won't be able to name it. That is the mark of the crown carrying heaven's fragrance in an earthly frame. The calling attached to this crown is not small. It is not a position, but a posture. To carry divine authority is to walk in humility. The higher the crown sits, the lower the head must bow. The greatest among heaven's chosen are not those who command, but those who carry compassion. Your calling now is to live as evidence, to be a mirror that reflects mercy, a voice that speaks healing, a life that radiates faith. You have become a living prophecy of restoration. Where you once bled, others will find balm. Where you once wept, others will find courage. The pain you survived becomes purpose now, not as memory, but as ministry. Crowning is not the end of the story, it's the beginning of legacy. When a warrior is crowned, the battlefield doesn't vanish, it transforms. The same hands that once fought now build. The same voice that once cried now instructs. You are not being removed from the world, you are being reintroduced to it. This time carrying heaven's authority, the crown will change how you walk. Not because it weighs heavy, but because it reminds you that your steps are now sacred. Every word you speak carries echo. Every gesture carries grace. You've become an ambassador of the realm you once only dreamed of. There will still be storms, but they won't shake you the same way. The crown does not stop the wind. It teaches you how to stand in it. The calling doesn't remove challenges. It gives you vision through them. You are no longer just enduring life. You are embodying light. Beloved chosen one, this is your moment of recognition, not before men, but before heaven. The angels who watched your tests now rejoice. The same hands that molded you now place the crown upon your head. It is the seal of faith fulfilled, the mark of one who did not quit. Lift your head, not in pride, but in purpose. You are the proof that God's promises never return empty. The fire didn't consume you, it crowned you. The silence didn't kill your faith, it amplified it. The breaking didn't end you, it revealed the masterpiece within. Walk now in your calling with calm authority. Let every breath remind you that you are no longer striving to be chosen, you are living as one. The test is complete. The scroll is signed, and the crown rests securely upon your spirit. Heaven whispers over you, "Well done, faithful one. You have endured. Now, reign with grace." Oh, chosen one, take a deep breath. You've reached the end of this divine journey, but really, it's the beginning of another. You've walked through fire, silence, testing, and triumph. You've discovered that being chosen is not about perfection, but persistence. Heaven has written your name in light, and now you carry that radiance wherever you go. If these words found you in a moment of searching, let them stay with you. Let them echo when doubt returns, when fear whispers, when weariness tries to visit again. You now know you are not ordinary. You are set apart for glory that cannot fade. And if this message touched your spirit, don't let it stop here. Like this word, share it, and let it travel to the next soul who needs to remember who they are. Each share is like lighting another candle in the dark. When you comment, your words join a chorus of faith that strengthens others who may feel alone. Subscribe if you haven't yet, so you never miss the next whisper heaven sends through these messages. Your small act becomes a spark in the great fire of divine purpose spreading across hearts. You are seen, you are loved, you are chosen, and your story is far from over. Type your Amen below if you feel heaven's confirmation stirring within you. Let this be your final declaration. I am crowned. I am called. I am ready.